This meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of the meeting was sent to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, and the Highland Park Planet on September 20th, 2018, and was posted in the bulletin board of Borough Hall, 221 South Fifth Avenue, Highland Park, on September 20th, 2018, and has remained continuously posted as required by law. Fire exits are to my left and to my right. If you come up to speak, please speak into the microphones. Karen, can I ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I'm so sorry.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Brill Mittler.
Here.
Councilman Fine.
Here.
Councilwoman Foster Dublin.
Here.
Councilman George.
Here.
Councilman Hale.
Here.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Here.
Councilwoman Wolkowitz.
Here.
Borough Attorney.
Here.
Borough Administrator.
Here.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask that our friends from the Shade Tree organization in town step forward. They have a presentation to make to all of us on our forestry plan and the ash tree situation. Okay, council members, let's move over to the audience side.
You don't want to sit behind this screen?
I can't hide behind the screen.
There you go.
Testing?
My name is Karen Swain. I'm co-chair of staff, the Shade Tree Advisory Committee. Is this better? I don't hear anything. Is this better? Is this better?
Hold it close to your mouth.
If I held it any closer, my mouth will be on it. My name is Karen Swain. I'm co-chair, along with Rosie Borough, of the Shade Tree Advisory Committee in Highland Park, STAC. We are here basically to present the new community forestry management plan, new because it has to be renewed every 5 years, and if we don't renew it by midnight, December 31st, it will no longer be applicable. We need this plan so that the borough can take advantage of the benefits. And specifically, the benefits protect the town for liability from hazardous trees, which is one of the most important issues we will also address tonight, and that is the ash trees in New Jersey, not only in Highland Park, not only in New Jersey, but all over the East Coast, all over the Midwest. The ash trees, native trees, are being attacked by an insect known as the emerald ash borer, and every single ash tree in town will either be dying or dead and dangerous. So there is a liability issue, and these are the issues that we will discuss tonight. Thank you. Melanie McDermott.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Karen, and thanks to the council for this opportunity to speak to you. I'm going to run through this presentation rather rapidly, but I hope you'll come back to us with questions. This is an important opportunity for our town. This is a draft plan for your review. So why are we doing this plan? As Karen mentioned in her introduction, the state requires that the community forestry management plan be renewed every 5 years and to remain in good standing with their community forestry program, which is what gives us liability protection against tree-related damages in town. When this draft is approved, it needs to be simply signed by the mayor, and we are aiming to submit it in November so that it can go through their process and be approved by the December 31st deadline. So we are very fortunate in town that in 2017, a landscape architect professor living in town conducted a 100% tree inventory. This is really a great resource that we have now with the database with all of our street trees, numbering around 3,000 included. We learned from this inventory that about half of the available planting spaces in town are empty, so we have a large gap in our canopy that we need to fill, and that the ash crisis will only worsen. 74 ash trees have been identified, and we'll also note that only 5 species represent about half of our trees, so we'd also like to increase the diversity of the town. This is image is a little hard to see, but you can see a dot for every tree, street tree, municipally owned tree in town, with the ash trees highlighted in what now looks to be a sort of unpleasant yellow. Okay, so in the plan, we state what our goals and objectives are. The first is to maintain a safe urban forest. This involves the usual maintenance, pruning, and removing trees, taking proactive steps to remove the ash trees before they become a hazard to life and limb. We are recommending, at the advice of, I guess, the lawyer Rosie consulted with, the town lawyer, that we should pass, you folks, council that is, should pass a resolution to temporarily waive a fee and replanting or mitigation requirement that is spelled out in our tree ordinance for trees affected by the emerald ash borer. That is so that there's no disincentive for townspeople to do the right thing and remove their ash proactively and not have to pay a fee to the town. We're also requesting that the ordinance be amended to require on-site inspections and establish a minimum fine for effective enforcement. We want to increase the number, second goal, increase the number of trees planted, their diversity with an emphasis on native species, and to promote tree health. We are recommending that we aim to plant 40 trees in year 1. Currently, we're running about 35 trees average planted per year, with a goal to increase to 200 trees by year 5, and we're going to do that in an innovative way that I'll speak a little more about, but that focuses on neighborhood-based plantings rather than just filling requests, although we will continue to fill planting requests for trees. And we have been awarded a $30,000 tree planting grant. I'm proud to say that we will be fulfilling mostly on the high school grounds. And the third and very important goal is to encourage stewardship for trees amongst our residents and businesses. We want to reach out to new residents to help increase the acceptance rate. We have already and will continue to improve our webpage. STAC has a webpage. Hopefully it is not too deeply buried in the municipal website so that people can find the information they need. We want to educate and involve students and conduct regular outreach in print media, social media, and at public gatherings. This is the tree-related budget from 2017. Note that the volunteer time is valued in terms of an hourly rate. That's how they do it. And you can see that we spend the bulk of our budget on contracted tree services. That's for removals, for pruning, for grinding down the stumps, and that's on a standing contract. So what we are recommending or requesting going forward is that we get a small increase, or significant actually, in not absolute terms, $3,000 for STAC to do community outreach on an annual basis. We'll talk more about that. And that we need to to rapidly remove the ash. Our DPW has been doing a great job within the limits of their capacities, but they can't keep up with the rate that we need to do to protect public safety and to not, lead into a more expensive problem down the line. So I will just note that we have $246,000 in our tree replacement fund. We're not happy that that number is large. That number is large because of all the developments have gone in. So that's a precious resource that we can't spend down because it won't be fully replenished. However, it is available for tree maintenance, not just for tree planting. So that's something to look at. The chief challenge in why our in filling our goal of renewing the urban canopy is that some residents simply refuse to accept street trees, and we want to address that with this new neighborhood-based approach. And of course, there's the emerald ash borer infestation that is coming down upon us. So, what we are suggesting is that the borough reconsider the sort of automatic practice of not planting a tree when a resident has refused it, but rather we're going to take a proactive approach and identify one neighborhood at a time in order to do, hold community meetings, have block parties, work with all the other good organizations in town, the schools, Sustainable Highland Park, the Scouts, to build consensus for a tree planting that will be prominent in that given area, so that there'll be sort of virtuous encouragement and peer pressure to accept trees, and it's a great education opportunity. We want to pilot that approach in one neighborhood this year, and then we've got a proposed division of the borough into 10 zones. The boundaries aren't important, but the point is we would want to tackle one zone per year, covering half the borough in this management 5-year plan, and then when we come in for renewal, we would tackle the rest. So this is just one illustrative way we could divide the borough up. But if we continue to just plant by request, we are not going to keep up with the pace of tree loss. Okay, to speak to the emerald ash borer, all ash in Highland Park will be dead within 5 years. We can either let them die on their own, in which case they become brittle and extremely hazardous. And it's important to note that when the infestation has reached affecting about 1/3 of the canopy, it can't be safely removed using the usual tree removal method where someone climbs a tree and then delimbs it. So you've got to bring in a crane, and it costs 2 to 3 times as much to remove the tree. So it'll be a bigger hit to our budget. There's just no way around it. These trees have to be removed. That's why we're saying get it done now. 16 trees were removed in 2018, 58 remain. At that pace, the trees will be too hazardous if we just leave it up to the DPW's availability. We are recommending that an additional budget amount be added to the tree company's contract so that those trees can be taken out over the next 2 years. And very importantly, there are many more ash trees in not only our county parks, but on private property, and our residents, most of them have no idea that they are facing this risk and this liability. So it's our responsibility to reach out and let everyone in town know that this is something they've got to take a look at. If they act quickly and the tree is still healthy and they have the opportunity to, with professional help, treat the tree chemically and save it, possibly within 10 years, there are some ideas about how to deal with the infestation. So that would be a choice that an individual resident can make for a prominent tree that really is of value to them. If they don't act soon, no one's going to have that choice. They will also save money by acting soon, because then they can have a normal tree felling. That the last time our family had to get a large tree felled, it cost us $2,000, and that was not a ash-infected hazardous tree. So imagine 2 to 3 times that cost. That's for complicated removal, but very serious financial hit to our townspeople. And of course, act quickly so that the trees don't come down in a storm or just shatter as they are wont to do and really hurt somebody, including the tree care workers taking them down. So this, I can't stress this as a public health and safety issue. It's an environmental issue, but it's something that really affects everyone's well-being. So as I said, approve additional amount so that the trees can be taken out over the next 2 years. And then we have prepared a draft letter that the mayor can send to all of the council, mayor and council can send to all townspeople, alerting them to the problem. We're calling for a public meeting, and we'd like to know, we'd like to discuss with you when that could possibly be scheduled. I know there's a lot on the agenda, but this would be an opportunity for us to answer questions because we're going to send out this letter and we've got flyers and we're going to be sounding the alarm, and we don't want people to be alarmed without knowing what can I do about it. We are suggesting that the borough be prepared to field phone calls. Here's the draft flyer. It has, call the borough. So what will the borough do then? They will suggest that the homeowner needs to involve either the DPW if they can make a positive identification that it is indeed an ash tree, or preferably a licensed tree expert. They will inspect for free on speculation that they might be hired to remove the tree. If it's positively identified as an ash tree, borough will issue the permit but waive the fee. But we are still requiring, or recommend that you require that the permit be granted. Otherwise, someone can just remove a tree and say, hey, that was ash. That's the recommendation. And I guess I'll close there. Here's a catchy phrase from a Midwestern state. Neighbors against bad bugs, act now, save trees, save money. So sorry for the high-speed presentation, but I know you've got a full agenda. Are there any immediate questions that we can take right now?
What we're going to do is
Okay.
the first open public discussion period, which is coming up shortly. I'm going to ask anyone who has a question for you. So if you don't mind hanging around.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The voice behind the screen. I feel like Oz.
No, you buy them. Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should. I'll let you
I was
see
going
it.
to keep that down and pretend I was the Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Okay. All right, council reports. I'm going to start down on my right tonight. Stephanie, do you have a report?
Yes, just a few announcements from Recreation and Senior Services. The Halloween Festival and Parade will be held at the high school gym this Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. And please stop by and bring your little ones. More details is on our Facebook page, Highland Park NJ Recreation, to keep up with all of our programming. In senior services, well, actually, this was all of our residents, not just our seniors. Today, our residents took a trip down to Atlantic City, trying their luck. I'm going to try my luck tonight. Hopefully, I'm a billionaire tomorrow. And October 27th and 28th, in conjunction with public safety, we will be having Operation Take Back event from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. to collect all unused and unwanted medicines. And with the new teen center opening, we thought it was time to rename the Senior Youth Center, and the new name will be the Highland Park Community Center. Truthfully, that's what it's used for. And more details on that, I know our public information officer, we're working on signage and having official renaming, kind of like ceremony. And that's it. Have a groovy, broomtastic Halloween, and be safe. And I'll see you all at the dog parade on Wednesday.
Thank
That's
you,
my-
Councilwoman Kim Chohan. All right, Councilman Hale, do you have a report?
I do have a couple items. Highland Park Cub Scout Pack 5 and Boy Scout Troop 55 are going to be collecting food for the Highland Park Food Pantry this Sunday, October 28th from 12 to 4 in front of Stop and Shop. So come and there will be balloon animals, apparently. So this is a highlight. So thank you for that. Highland Park Gives a Hoot and also the Zone 6 Teen Center are looking for people interested in mentoring high school kids. So if you have an interest in that, if you have a time to be able to do that, you can contact either Michael Buckman or Ashton Burrell about some mentoring opportunities in either of those areas. On November 13th from 6:30 to 8, the Human Relations Commission will be hosting an evening with Middlesex County Prosecutor Andrew Carey at the Highland Park Community Center, which is an event by the Human Relations Commission. Stephanie mentioned the Take Back Day. I think that's a really important event that we take advantage of. So I just wanted to reiterate that. Also, for the Highland Park Food Pantry, we just learned that they're going to be included in an art project called the Windows of Understanding Project. Artist Lisa Zimmerman is going to be preparing a work based on the things that the food pantry does, and there'll be an installation, and so we can look for that coming in January. I wanted to also remind everybody that on November 11th is the Veterans Day Parade. I think that's a really important event for a town to participate in. The parade begins at 11 o'clock with an opening ceremony and then a march down Raritan. I think it's an important event for Highland Park to honor veterans. For information about that, you can also call 732-819-0052. I know that other council members attended an event, the St. Paul's Knights of Columbus First Responder Ceremony, where honorees for the police department were Gary Panicella, for the fire department, Miguel Rondon, and Stephen Cudia for the first aid squad. So I think we'll hear some more about that later on, but I think it's a nice event that St. Paul's was able to put on. My last two issues, I wanted to just take a small moment to commend Council President George and the mayor on all of the work that they did in organizing our public meeting about the plastic bag ordinance. I'm new to the council. I think that these events where we are able to come together as a community to focus on a particular issue and do it in some depth are very valuable to the whole community. We had people at this event that were both in favor of the ordinance and against the ordinance. It was a lively discussion, and I think it was a thoughtful discussion. And I certainly hope that as we come to other issues where there is a potential division of viewpoints, that we can have these public meetings. I think it's a real valuable service. So I wanted to commend both of you for putting that on.
Thank you, Councilman.
I'd like to see more of those. So. And then the last issue. I know we've had some initial discussions or very brief discussions, and there's been a lot of discussion about marijuana and marijuana legalization. I'm not going to belabor it here. There's nothing in front of the council for us to talk about this. We are far away from any action on this. But I did feel that it would be important for us to get views out there as this process starts. So I wrote an op-ed in insidernj.com. The name of it is So What About This? Embracing the Messy, the Long, and the Complicated. So I'm not going to belabor it here tonight. I'm not going to read it here tonight. But if you are interested in some thoughts about this issue from a council member, you can go to insidernj.com and you can do a search for Matt Hale and Messi, and it will show up right at the top. So I would encourage you to do that. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Councilman Hale. And I did have a chance to read your opinion, and I think it was spot on. As we've discussed, it is messy, and there are processes involved that we, as a governing body, need to follow in those making decisions. But it also includes input from residents, and to your point about the open public meetings, I think that's an excellent way for us to get input and move forward in respectful conversation.
Great, thank you very much.
Councilwoman Welkowitz.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to congratulate the honorees from last night's St. Paul's and Knights of Columbus event. I'm sorry I couldn't be there last night, but I'd like to congratulate the honorees from last night's St. Paul's and Knights of Columbus event. I wasn't able to be there because Borough Administrator Terry Hover and I presented current land use matters to the Zoning Board. It was a dynamic meeting with plenty of questions and in-depth discussion to ensure all members of our Planning Board, Zoning Board, and our redevelopment entity are engaged and made aware of what each another are working on. Thanks to Chair Judy Richmond for requesting the meeting, and to Terry Hover, who led the presentation, and with your great background, you were able to answer all those technical and legal questions, so thank you for that. And that also touches on what Matt was just saying. So open meetings are very good, very informative. Our Safe Walking and Cycling Committee is delighted to see on the agenda tonight an appointment of a new member, Aaron Coneen. He's been active in several meetings already. And our Safe Walking and Cycling Committee is looking into purchasing some public bicycle repair kits to install in one or more key locations. They're some metal tools that are on a giant key, and we hang it somewhere so that if you find yourself in need of some bicycle repair, you could park your bike there for a little while and tend to it. On Main Street held its best Taste of Highland Park yet a couple weekends ago. The Taste of Highland Park features and promotes the great variety of restaurants in Highland Park. The Cook and the Carpenter, which is yet to open, but they were present and they had the most successful afternoon of all the merchants, followed closely by the Bridge Restaurant. Main Street will also be testing a new app this year, which the members from Main Street were introduced to at this year's National Main Street Conference. The app will allow our local businesses to list their business and update specials at any time, monthly, weekly, even daily. So it'll be a great tool for the residents to use to find out what's going on, where to shop, and what kind of specials there might be. Join us this Friday at the Farmers Market for Squash Fest. The Farmers Market runs until December, so please join us there until the end of the season. And, spectacularly, join us for the first ever Highland Park Dog Halloween Costume Parade. Enjoy downtown trick-or-treating with the kids and or your dog from 2:30 to 5. Look for the bone in the window of pup-friendly businesses. Then make your way down for costume judging at 6 p.m. with your pup. The location will be announced later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A lot of good things happening on Main Street these days. All right, Councilwoman Foster Dublin, do you have a report?
Very briefly, I want to echo what everyone said about the Knights of Columbus Award in Highland Park. First responders last night, it was a wonderful event. They have been doing this award for the past 15 years, and it's just really good that someone take the time out to acknowledge the people that keep us safe here in town. They not only acknowledge the people that serve, but they took a special note to acknowledge the family, and I thought that was really special, because without your family support, you would not be doing any of these services. So again, congratulations to the team that got awarded last night. The fire department on October 11th had a fire prevention open house. It was very successful. They had over 150 people that showed up to learn more about how to keep each other safe, keep their homes safe, and what to do during should there be a fire. Just want to remind everyone to please check your fire detectors, your radon detectors. Make sure you have new batteries in. We want to keep everyone safe. And again, Operation Take Back, the 27th and 28th of I was going to say our old senior youth center. Now it's our community center. So it's this Saturday and Sunday you can drop off your unused medication safely. That's my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Fine?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As the chair of the Finance Standing Committee, I would like to address shared services and the library. As to shared services, the mayor mentioned in her recent memo in the Highland Park e-News that while our borough has established shared services over the past decade, such as sharing a housing authority executive director with Woodbridge, animal control with Edison, and a senior health officer with Middlesex County, there are surely additional opportunities for shared services that may provide savings for Highland Park without negatively impacting our quality of life. We will continue to explore such opportunities, such as shared services for vehicle maintenance for DPW and the police department with another municipality. As for the Highland Park Free Public Library, as the council liaison to the Library Board of Trustees, I'm glad to report that for the last 2 months, there have been no visible leaks from the library roof. However, the issue of leaks from the library roof throughout the year has yet to be resolved. And with that in mind, I'd like to report on the status of the library's preparations to apply to the state of New Jersey's Library Construction Bond Program. The new Library Construction Bond Program, the New Jersey Library Construction Bond Act, that made $125 million available for public library construction, was approved by New Jersey voters almost a year ago in early November 17. Specifically, public libraries, municipal, county, joint, and association libraries will be eligible to apply for construction funds in a competitive grant program, which I learned yesterday is expected to be announced in the spring of 2019. Libraries will be eligible to apply for funds for various projects, including to rehabilitate or renovate an existing building to be used as a public library, and to repair major systems or components of a public library building in order to keep the building in efficient operating condition. In order to be eligible to participate in the new library construction program to help fund its updated strategic plan, our library needed some guarantee of a local match for the funds that may be granted through the new library construction program. Earlier this year, Bruce Tucker, president of the Board of Trustees, appeared before the governing body, along with Library Director Jane Stanley and the library's consultants, Alan and Leslie Berger of Library Development Solutions, with whom the Library Board of Trustees has worked since 2012, when it first started to re-envision the library. The Library Board of Trustees indicated at the time that it plans for a strategic upgrade of the library that would cost about $625,000, and that the $125 million library construction bond, which will provide one-to-one matching funds to libraries for upgrades, would be giving it an opportunity that doesn't come along often to fulfill its strategic vision at half the cost. In order not to miss out on the grant cycle, the council agreed this spring to signal its support for the strategic update to the library by including $312,500 or so in the capital budget and committing to using it should the library be awarded a grant by the state program. By doing so, the library assured the council that it would be able to update its strategic plan, develop a capital campaign out of which the library would reimburse the borough as much as possible, and then apply for a New Jersey state grant when the application process would begin. I was informed yesterday that the Highland Park Board of Trustees is in the process of reviewing architectural plans and cost estimates to renovate the Highland Park Library. It has a completed draft of its updated strategic plan, which it worked on with its consultant, Library Development Solutions, and the Library Board will also be working with its consultant, to prepare the upcoming construction grant application and on fundraising. Thank you.
Thank you. Our Council President, do you have a report?
I'll shorten my report because the Shade Tree Advisory Committee has presented on a number of issues, and the large part of my report will be that. Just to point out a few things, Sustainable Highland Park is already planning for Earth Day, and with a nod to the safe walking and cycling, we picked the name People Powered. However, Councilwoman Welkowitz, I remind you with your bicycle repairs that the very first Monty Python skit ever, which I happened to see when I was living in London, was entitled Bicycle Repairman. And then also note that the Meadows Trail crew has completed the observation platform. I'd advise everyone take a walk. It is a marvelous sight. The fall colors are coming in, and the volunteers this weekend used a volunteer pickup to start moving some of the old municipal benches that were removed when the Main Street improvement project was brought in to be able to place benches around the observation. It is absolutely a beautiful sight with the early autumn color. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Borough Administrator, do you have a report?
Just a couple items I'd like to bring people up to speed on. I can't recall if we mentioned it at a previous meeting, but I'm pleased to report that we finally received the DEP, the state DEP's approval that we needed in order to move forward with the project to do solar panels near the Meadows area. There were a number of regulatory hurdles that had to be climbed and surmounted, but in partnership with PC&G, we were able to do so. The next steps involve us doing some cleanup along the trails where there's been some debris dumped over the years, mostly kind of construction material, and that's what we're moving to get out the door pretty quickly, is to get some estimates for that work. So we're really excited about that, and I know that's been something that neighbors of that area have been asking recently, so we expect to see that move forward. I'm trying to connect with PSE&G to get a sense for their timeline for their piece of the project. So that's good news. Just letting everybody know that the application to the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank to address some of the water, sorry, it sounds loud from here, I apologize. The New Jersey Infrastructure Bank, we have an application pending with them. It's kind of a laborious process, but they offer very good rates on loans. So we're pursuing that to support our upgrades in our water system, and I'll report on that as that goes forward, but I wanted to let you know that's something that's on the front burner. And lastly, a topic that is on everybody's minds, I know, regarding the deer management question. I just wanted to thank people for taking the time to send in their concerns, because we are trying to document it, especially when you have some hazardous conditions or concerns, health and safety concerns with deer in your yard. We're accepting that on the Report a Concern portal that's on our homepage of our website. But I'm pretty much, I think I've got what I need to kind of put that first package together to the DEP, with the expectation that we'll be bringing them here once they've had a chance to evaluate our conditions, to come present to us about what some of our options might be for management moving forward. So I just wanted to thank everybody for their patience, because I know it's been something that everybody wants us to move forward on, and I'm looking forward to the next steps of that.
And Borough Administrator, that would be the Fish and Wildlife people?
The Division of Fish and Wildlife within the DEP, and it's going to be, we have to juggle their workload with our workload, but we're going to get to a neighborhood meeting, probably more likely into January at this point, just with the holidays coming up.
Thank you. Borough Attorney, do you have a report?
No report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I have a few things. First of all, the League of Women Voters is holding a celebration of first-time voters. No matter how you vote, as long as you register to vote, they will be having this celebration at the Teen Center on Election Day from 7 till 8:30. and they are particularly interested in celebrating all of our teenage high school students who have registered to vote for the first time. HPTV, as you know, brings you all the information and recordings from the council meetings. It does much more, and Gary Leslie, who's in the back by the camera there, has been running that committee for us for, I won't even say how long, Gary, many, many years. We would like to get some new volunteers to work with the HPTV team. If you are an aspiring videographer, if you have ideas for programming, if you want to help organize files for tape and video files, please contact us. There are volunteer forms on the borough's website. You need merely fill it out and indicate you're interested in HPTV, and we'd love to have you get involved with us. I do want to say that I continue to be amazingly proud of the work of so many of our volunteers and council members. Apparently, the entire New Jersey League of Municipalities is too. I just got word today that Highland Park will be receiving its Innovations in Governance Award. We will be the winner out of 565 municipalities, and that is for our Civics for the Community program, which was originally organized by Beth Stevens and has become part of our communications committee. So we will be receiving that award at the League of Municipalities. I also want to thank those of you who came out to the open public meeting recently and joined me and Council President Phil George and Sustainable Highland Park for the public meeting to discuss the draft plastic bag ordinance. I know there's been a lot of discussion about that. There was a good deal of conversation, and a second public meeting will be held in November. Once all of the input is gathered, the council will review it and discuss how to move forward with the plastic bag ban. I want to be clear that in council discussions and conversations with Main Street Highland Park, there has been broad support for this ban. Our goal is to take your input and discuss the best way to move forward. And that includes, among many other things, the timing of this kind of program, the fees that are suggested, the extent of the products to be included or excluded from the ban, and the concerns of residents and local businesses. But clearly, we have a responsibility to our children and our grandchildren to protect the earth and leave something good for them. We as citizens of Highland Park, which is built along the banks of the Raritan River, must do all we can to ensure that the fragile water system that we depend on and the ecosystems around them will be there to be enjoyed by our sons and daughters. So as we move forward, let's continue this conversation in a civil and open manner. Let's listen to what is being said on both sides of the issue, and let's move forward together for our community and for our children. And finally, I want to say a word about why you do not hear us weighing in on heated debates on Facebook. OPRA, Open Public Records Act, and OPMA, the Open Public Meetings Act, laws prevent us from conducting borough business on social media. So while we can put up announcements on Facebook, we can't get into discussion about a topic there. That is because all our borough work is operable and OPMA related. And since it is impossible for us to guarantee that a Facebook post would always be available for distribution, we cannot discuss issues there. Also, we must be careful not to have a quorum of elected officials opining on the same topic, as that could be considered a borough meeting. And all meetings of council must be noticed 48 hours ahead of time. So it's complicated. However, I and all of your council members are easily reachable. My general office meeting hours at Borough Hall are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 9:30 a.m. till 3 p.m. Feel free to call there to set up a meeting with me. Council meetings have 2 open public comment sessions, and you can talk to me or any of your council people about an issue important to you when you step up to the microphone. Keep in mind, by ordinance, each speaker during the first session is only allowed 3 minutes. Or, come to any of our open public meetings on a topic that interests you. We've just gone through one, there were several in the past. I'm sure there will be more in the future. And of course, you are welcome to join me at local Meet the Mayor events, walks with the mayor, on most Fridays at the farmer's market, sometime around noon is the time I get there, or just shopping around town. So call me, meet with me, find me in the streets or the supermarket or the farmer's market, and I'm sure the same could be said of all the elected officials up here. Thank you. All right, and speaking of public discussion, is there anyone here that has a question related to the presentation made about the forestry program or the Emerald Ash Borer situation? Yes, no? No? Oh, yes, David, please step up to the microphone. And then once we finish these discussions, anyone else who has a question they would like to ask, please step up.
Yes, David Hughes, 330 South 3rd Avenue. Nobody mentioned that Dr. McDermott has a master's in forestry and a PhD in environmental science policy and management. I think that speaks to the presentation.
Your fan club is here?
But I want to urge the council to pay attention not only to the problem, but to of cutting the ash, but replacing them. Because I know at a moment like this, trees seem like a liability, and you might be inclined to just wash your hand with the whole thing and remove this species and not replace it. But trees, and I know this is the primary work of the Shade Tree Commission, trees actually make this town wonderful. If you think of walking along Harrison Avenue or Central Avenue, it's cool there in the summer. And you have dappled light, and it takes some of the savagery out of the climate change that we now live with these 95-degree days and so on in June, July, August. So I don't want this town to become a desert with trees removed. I live on South 3rd, which has fewer, especially on the block between Benner and Harper. I want more shade trees everywhere. And if the people living next to them don't like it, well, I want you to tell them tough. This is a common property issue about the comfort and sustainability of our town. It speaks to the overuse of air conditioning already, and the carbon emissions that come from air conditioning. So please replace those trees and make it happen regardless of what the neighbors to those trees say if they're opposing it. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, does anyone please step up to the microphone and state your name and address? I just want to remind everyone this is the first session, so we're limited to 3 minutes a person. You can feel free to come back up afterwards.
Just Arthur Miller comment on this. I'm at 325 North 3rd. If you do replace the trees, I know that there are trees that have superficial roots and trees that have deep roots.
Right.
Please replace them with deep roots because we don't want to have to replace sidewalks in 20 years.
Thank you.
Just to point out, for the last 2 years, we've worked on the list. Stack and DPW working together. We do have a list of the species. I think some of the older lists may still be posted on the Borough website, but that very specifically looking at trees that are deep rooted as opposed to superficial.
Peter Spool, 146 Graham Street. I think then the people at DPW. That better?
Yes.
Yes.
Peter Spool, 146 Graham Street. I think then the people at DPW have to be trained in what list to provide. When I went to get a list of the trees that were available, I got 4 or 5 different lists. Nobody knew. None of them looked like an official list from Highland Park. They were all reprints of God knows from where.
I'll make sure we take that to them and discuss that at our next meeting.
Thank you, Peter. You need to, if you're going to talk, you need to step up to the microphone. Please step up.
My name is Boris Bronstein, 367 Krause Road. Just a couple quick questions, if possible. Couple quick questions. I'll try to keep it below the 3 minutes. So you mentioned in the second meeting about the plastic bag ban is going to be in November. Has a specific date been set?
Borough Administrator, do we have a date?
Well, we were targeting November 1st. I believe that's a Thursday at 7 p.m. or 7:30 over again at the community center. But I was waiting for Councilman George, to confirm his availability.
And we discussed that this evening,
Yeah.
yes.
So yes, and we'll be sending out the notices on that shortly.
So November 1st?
November 1st, yeah.
Great. And how will residents be notified? Because the first one, I know I didn't get anything in the mail. A lot of people didn't. And I first found out, a lot of people only found out about it like the same day or in retrospect. So how will every 14,000 Highland Park residents be notified?
I'm really glad you asked that question. Do you mind if I field it?
Go ahead.
The best way to stay on top of things like this is to opt into our email list, because we're not able to mail out notices for all meetings like this. So we don't do that. So you're not going to get a mailing in your inbox, but we do send numerous emails. If you monitor the borough's Facebook page, we put announcements there, and we also have a calendar on the borough's website of events. So that's the best way to stay on top of it. So there's an opt-in on our website for emails, and you can even say, I want these kinds versus this kind, and so that's the best way to, not just for this issue, but for any issue going on in town. That's one of our best ways, and we want to actually do a campaign in the coming months to try to get as many people to opt in to that, as well as our Nixle alerts, which are more of an emergency-oriented notifications as well. So if you don't get, you can sign up through Nixle or through our websites for our email communications.
And if I could just add to that a second, the Nixle messages, you put in your address so that if there's information or an emergency in a particular part of town, north side or south side or triangle, then you'll find out about it. You won't be inundated with everything that goes on parts of town that have nothing to do with you.
Gotcha. Second question, who wrote the draft ordinance for the plastic ban?
Sustainable Highland Park.
Okay, gotcha. So the committee of just volunteers wrote it, and you guys just presented, and you'll be voting on it as is?
The Sustainable Highland Park volunteers did the rough draft. It was given to the borough attorney to finalize in a legal format, and then it was presented. It's been presented a number of times in draft and in discussion format to council. Was then presented formally. It has not been introduced yet. We have a new process on these matters that are of bigger public importance than routine things like buying snowplows, where we're going to be holding public meetings to discuss, limited to the one specific topic, so that we can focus on it and have all the parties that are involved in it. So we'll be doing more of that.
And to to add to that, We will be voting on an ordinance after much discussion, based, as I said before, based on the input we're getting from residents at the public meetings and through direct contact with us.
Got it. And I understand there's a grant for $10,000 that they received. Who had oversight of that grant?
The borough had oversight. Every request to spend that money had to be referred to the borough for approval.
So is that publicly available?
You want to see the proposal or the?
No, how the $10,000 was spent on what?
Yeah, if you get in touch with me, I can break it down for you.
Cool. And on what criteria is the council planning on making the decision to enact, or possibly not enact, a plastic bag ban?
Depends on on how they feel about it. It depends on the public discussion. We're also looking at the comments. We listen to the comments at the meetings. There may be some fine tuning of the ordinance, but everyone votes their conscience, their will, and their desire to either see it done or not.
And let me explain the process a little bit more. When something is an ordinance change, is this an ordinance or?
This is an ordinance.
Okay. When something is an ordinance change or a new ordinance introduced, here's the process. After the council comes to agreement on exactly what they want in the ordinance, we then introduce it on first reading, and we vote on it on first reading. When it has to be voted on twice. When it comes before the council in this setting, and you'll hear, we're going to do some of that tonight for other ordinances. It comes on a second reading. At the second reading, there is public comment. And that's another opportunity for people who decide to come out to the meeting to comment one last time before the council makes any final vote decision.
Gotcha.
So could I just clarify? I wanted to make sure that the first reading for this ordinance has not occurred yet. The
Correct.
first reading, because we've decided that this is such an important issue that we've had this first public meeting. There'll be a second public meeting for discussion prior to the first reading, right? That's how important we take the public discussion ahead of introducing it. Does that make sense?
Sure. So just to clarify, there's no like specific guidelines. For instance, like an ecological impact study of how much waste do Highland Park residents purchasing things in Highland Park actually produce that ends up in Highland Park portion of the river, because obviously you mentioned like the river and the impact on the wildlife around the river and the waterway.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the things that Highland Park residents do don't actually affect the Highland Park River because it flows downstream, so it will probably affect the next county down, and we're affected by the next county up.
I think we're thinking about not only the effect of our use of plastic bags on the Raritan River right where we are, but more on the earth in general, our country, our land, and the future of this planet for our children.
Sure, but in weighing that, are you actually weighing the practical, physical amounts of waste that Highland Park is producing relative to the potential economic detriment? For instance, like an economic impact study of if Highland Park enacts this ban while other counties right next door, like Edison and East Brunswick, do not, what the potential fallout from that would be, and the potential cost-benefit analysis of the benefits to the environment of the Highland Park residents creating waste by buying in Highland Park versus the economic detriment to Highland Park citizens.
So there are several ways to look at that, but most importantly, you should know that at the state legislature, they are moving to a even more even more strict ban on plastics and other materials in general. So the state, whenever they get to it, once they pass that, then every municipality in the state of New Jersey is going to have to follow that.
Could it be worthwhile to wait for that legislation to pass?
We're actually, I just set up a meeting with Senator Greenstein, who is one of the writers of this legislation, for Council President Phil George and the chair of the Sustainable Group, and also Borough Administrator Hover, to join me at that meeting to see where they are. They're very much interested in hearing also where we are on this.
But we don't know that yet, right?
Say that again?
But we don't know that yet.
No, I know they're interested in where.
We don't know where we as Highland Park are there yet.
No. They're interested in talking to us about where the current draft is, what we are hearing from residents, what we are hearing as positives and negatives, and also to weigh in on what they are thinking of doing as well.
Could it be worthwhile to wait until after the second meeting happens, as more people have been notified of this issue than at the first meeting, where it's possible there was a slight increase of people that knew about the ordinance in advance?
So as it happens, I believe both are happening on the same day.
Which one first?
I think a few hours ahead of the public meeting is the meeting with the state person.
And who is that?
It's Senator Greenstein.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Am I seeing hands or people leaving? Okay.
Dan Stern, Cardinal, Harper Street. Just a quick comment on the plastic bag ordinance possibility. The fact of the matter is, with all single-use plastics, is that 10, 15, 20 years from now, we're not going to be able to use any of them. It's just a completely unsustainable practice. If you go elsewhere in the world, they've already mostly phased this kind of stuff out. It's a question not of are we going to do it, but when are we going to do it, and how much time are we going to have to plan for it and absorb any economic impacts. I have yet to read or hear or find, and I've been looking for a good argument for waiting 5 years or 10 years or whenever, when it's a more urgent problem than it already is. It's something we're going to have to do at some point. We have a plan on the table that seems, having read the ordinance, it seems like a very rational, well thought out plan that's in accordance with what the state is ultimately going to impose on us anyway if we don't do anything. So there's really no good argument for not doing something now that is on the road to where we're ultimately going to end up anyway, rather than doing nothing for a longer period of time and then having to do more faster when the problem is more urgent and we're having not just state laws but federal laws that are ultimately going to have an impact on this issue. So I like this ordinance. I think it's great. We should pass it once we go through all of the various public meetings and hear what everyone has to say. But this is a good thing and we should do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Swain, 55 Cleveland Avenue. In answer to the problem of not finding lists of trees.
Speak closer to the mic.
Okay.
Thank you.
In answer to the question on how to find lists of trees, part of the problem is when you go to hpborough.com, there should be almost immediately a category that says trees. However, right now, at this point, one must go to services. How you're supposed to figure out the trees are under services, I have no idea. So we're going to have to change this. But as of now, if you go to services, you'll see a list. In the list, there are trees. When you go to trees, there's actually a list of tree recommendations. But believe me, we are going to have to change this and change it quickly because it's almost impossible to navigate the website.
Karen, I just want to ask you, Harry Glazer was out of the room when you were talking about that. Would you make sure you contact him about that issue on the website so he can address it?
We will. Rosie's going to do that.
Oh, Rosie, okay,
yes,
thank you.
Rosie's going to do. And while I'm standing here, I just want to announce, I would like people to watch for our flyers, which hopefully will be everywhere you look, on bulletin boards, in shop windows, in schools, everywhere, we hope. And we hope it will attract attention and people will get, will be encouraged to find out what to do about their ash trees, which are everywhere. Everybody has ash trees on their property, whether you know it or not. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing that would be helpful, I actually mentioned it, I think, today to the borough administrator. most residents don't know what an ash tree looks like. That's just the leaves, though. Okay.
That's
We could go into detail and say that ash trees have opposite branches, twigs, and leaves. The most important part about IDing an ash tree is to know that the leaf is a compound leaf. It's made up of smaller, they're not small, leaflets. There could be 5, 7, or 9 leaflets making up one leaf. And opposite this leaf, there will be another leaf opposite. That's the clue to an ash tree. Maples are also opposite, but maple leaves do not look like this. I think mostly everybody knows what maple leaves look like. And there are other trees that are opposite that also do not have compound leaves with leaflets. Ash trees, if you look up in the winter at an ash tree, you can actually see the opposite twigs and branches. It's a lot of open space, not like a maple where everything is scrunched together tightly. The other thing is, if you go online, you can see pictures of ash trees in the spring, what the flowers look like. In the fall, the leaves turn yellow. They're usually, the leaves usually drop off earlier than other trees. There's all kinds of information. It's too much to put. This is really to get people aware of what's going on.
Okay.
And if you see this leaf pattern, and they're everywhere. There was one right next to Borough Hall that was taken down. The top was finally removed. There were branches falling constantly right on the parking lot, right at the corner of the parking lot. And DPW took down the top of that tree rather recently. We also want to make people aware that we are only going to be removing the tops of the ash trees initially, which means that you are going to see a lot of stubs and what we call sticks. The rest of the tree is going to stand there until and unless we can afford to take everything down. And Highland Park, DPW, is not equipped to take out every ash tree all the way down to the roots. So we are taking the tops, which is where the insect goes first. And so you will see, and this is going to be really horrific for everyone in town, we will see stumps and sticks of trees everywhere until we're finished doing the job. The real problem is finding the ash trees on your property, because those, when they die, will become dangerous.
Thank you.
Karen,
Mayor, just
may I
briefly.
suggest that you give that picture to HBTV so they can put it up there so people know what it looks like?
To follow up on that, Councilwoman Foster Dublin, one of the first questions I asked when we began to discuss this is, what does an ash tree look like? So what we've been discussing is being able to get them pictures on the Borough website. Also, there are a few presentations that have been done by the state and some of the other forestry organizations that we can get to run on HPTV as well. But I think it's most important to at least have the pictures readily accessible. Karen, with regard to navigating the website, for those of us who've been doing it for years, we just mark the pages because it really is a difficult website. However, it is in the works to redesign it in 2019. We put it off this year for budget reasons, and it'll be a lot more user-friendly in the future. Thank you.
Please step up to the mic and tell us your name and address.
Mayor, hi, I'm Stephen Reed. I'm the mayor of Point Pleasant Beach. I want to thank you and council members and Councilman Fine for inviting me tonight. I don't know if you can hear me. It doesn't sound like you can, but
You want to pull out the mic and just hold it?
Yeah.
There you
How's
go.
that? Is that better? First of all, again, let me congratulate you. I think this is your second award, like 2 years in a row. You and the council have done. So you're doing a great job. First of all, I want to come to that dog walk. I have 3 dogs, so I'm really excited about that. So I
hope you'll join us.
Yeah, I was really excited about it. So you're kidding. But I also, in my town at Point Pleasant Beach, we passed a bag ordinance. We were the second town to do so. A small town in Long Beach Island called Long Beach did it, and so we basically took their ordinance and did the same thing. So if you have any questions,
could you email me a copy of that ordinance?
Yeah, and basically, I know that the state is looking at it. They're looking at a tax on bags. We basically worked very closely with our Chamber of Commerce and our stores in town, and we had them buy into it. And even our Stop and Shop now has their paper bags. And then plastic bags, you always want to ban, but you really can't ban it. So you try to reduce it, okay? Try to do the best you can. And so what we do is for fish and meat, you can have a plastic bag. So I cleaned out a lake 3 weeks ago, and I can tell you we had 8 bags, very big black bags filled with plastic, whether it's bottles and plastic bags, and it was really terrible. We also just passed an ordinance, a balloon ordinance, because again, we're on the ocean, we have 3 lakes, we have a river, just like you worrying about your future. I think it's important. I'm very happy that you're taking that stance. I think that if you have the businesses buy into it, you may not have to tax a bag. What we did as a town, we bought reusable bags. I know every single one of you most likely have reusable bags when you go shopping. Those days are over. We don't need plastic bags anymore. You have reusable bags. And so that was something that we were excited about. We had all these reusable bags saying, "I love Point Pleasant Beach." Nice little, PR move. And so we gave them all out. We have a store in our town called Joe Leone's. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a big Italian place. Next week, they're going door to door handing out reusable bags to each member in town. So we're really excited about it. I just congratulate you and wish all of you good luck with that.
Thank you.
Again, I think it's important that you get the people to tie in and really buy into it.
Thank you.
I'm here to talk about recreation marijuana. Last year, when Governor Murphy won, we as a family-friendly town, which I had commercials out bringing people to the boardwalk and the beach in our downtown. We have a great town, just like you. You have a wonderful town. I love the work that you're doing, the Shade Tree Commission. Our Shade Tree Commission is very aggressive as well, so good luck with that. So it was very important for us to say no to any dispensaries in our town, whether it was recreation or medical. We basically thought that it wasn't a good fit for us. And over time, that happened in December. The governor won, that was his #1 priority. And then in December, we had the first reading, then the second reading. A couple days after Christmas, being the mayor, I was getting all these calls from the press asking, they want to interview me. At the time, I was like, I can't believe we're talking about marijuana, but yes, I will do the interview. And it really caught on fire. I was on in a couple conferences where we talked about marijuana. I met a guy named Kevin Sabat. He's the head of it's called SAM, and SAM is the, let's say, Mother Association of New Jersey RAMP. I am now the executive director of New Jersey RAMP. That's Responsible Approaches in Marijuana Policy. Kevin Sabat was a drug advisor to President Obama and President Bush. We also have Patrick Kennedy. Kevin and Patrick Kennedy, I'm sure you all know Patrick Kennedy, Congressman Kennedy, lives in New Jersey now. He had some mental issues and drug issues growing up, and now he basically travels the country and talks about drugs and the problems with the drugs, and so he's doing a really great job. What I just want to, so I was asked to be the executive director of New Jersey RAMP, so I'm traveling around, I'm talking to residents and legislators. Let me just tell you about where the bill is right now. Senator Scutari has been pushing for legalizing marijuana for many years. He was able to get it approved. This is his bill. He's pushing this bill. And so he introduced the bill in June. The governor said within the first 100 days he wanted it approved, and dispensaries opened up. And here we are now, 200 some days. It was this bill, Senate Bill 2703, was introduced in June. It was supposed to be done by the end of June. Then the it wasn't. Senate President, the Assembly Speaker, and the governor said, we'll get it done in July. It went from July to August, September, and they said October 29th it was going to get done. So the bill right now is in the Senate Judiciary Committee right now. There's 11 members. Republican, Democrat. Democrats have the majority. Right now, I believe, if I'm doing my count right, I've met with all of them. We've discussed issues, the good, the bad, mostly bad. And I'll get into that in a little bit. We take it from the facts, California, Colorado.
Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm going to ask you, we have a 3-minute limit on the presentations during open public comment.
Okay.
I'm sorry to stop you.
I'm going to take back all my nice things I said. That was my time.
Can you just come back up at the second portion?
Sure.
Where you have more than 3 minutes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilman Fine will tell you next time, 3 minutes.
My only question is, who won the tug of war against Manasquan?
Does anybody else have a question?
We lost 3-2.
Okay. Please state your name and address.
Members of the council,
No,
concerned
you have to
citizens.
start.
My
Name and
name
address.
my name is Eric Silverman, and I live on South Adelaide Avenue. I'm also very much online with the mayor on not allowing dispensaries for legalized marijuana in Highland Park. I know a lot of what I was prepared to say would probably be better addressed to the members of the legislature, but if we look at what happened in Colorado, that the deaths in pot-related car crashes in 1 year rose 32%. Arrests for driving under the influence of THC rose by 45%, and nearly half of newborn babies were born with traces of pot in their blood. And I know a lot of the things we've heard about it were for social justice, because minority youths are arrested at much higher rates for possession than white youths when there is no greater actual use. Making it legal is the wrong approach to social justice. And by the way, the facts that I just read you, this is not from a remake of Reefer Madness or one of these 1930s anti-pot screeds. This was from a letter that appeared in the Star Ledger by former Senator Ray Lesniak. And he concludes his letter by saying, the current evidence-based science says no to legalization of marijuana, while social justice concerns say yes to decriminalization. What I would like to say is, if I could coin a term, de-prisonization of it, where the best approach would be probably that of Senator Ronald Rice, where incarceration would no longer be imposed for small quantities, but there would be a civil fine that does not confer a criminal record. And I don't know if his bill addresses this, but also requiring confiscation of any quantity and education classes. Just allowing it to become a big business like big alcohol or big tobacco is not going to promote social justice. What they are looking to do, Scutari and these other people, they're looking to use the wrong tool. Yes, we have a problem, but we need to do microsurgery with a scalpel or a laser, not do an amputation with a meat cleaver. And I'm sure a lot of people in town do not want to see these dispensaries, even if other places have it. Am I finished?
Well, I don't know. Somebody has to tell me. I don't keep the time. Somebody has to tell me when 3 minutes. So I'm just moving this closer. That's all.
Even if other places have it and they're going to be benefited from taxes, that we should not draw this into town. That we are not a corporation. We are a society, not a company. And all right, I will speak later.
Okay. So I just want to say one thing. I want to thank both of you for coming up to talk about this. You should know that the council and governing body we have not even begun discussions of this, because we feel, there's a lot of research that has to be done, and it's kind of premature before the state decides what they're going to do. So, you know, I know that Councilman Fine had asked you to come to tonight's meeting, but we're just not ready to talk about it, though I want, you know, I appreciate hearing what everyone has to say. Just want to make that clear. Okay, any other public discussion?
Arthur Miller, 325 North 3rd. I'll just add my 2 cents since I don't know when I'll be back. Just wanted to add my 2 cents on this issue. Some people may know me. I'm a physician here in town. And I don't know much about politics and politicians and Democrats and Republicans, but I do know what I see in my office and what I've had experience with and what I've listened to in lectures. And I just don't agree that it's a good idea to open up dispensaries in town, because I'm the one that ends up treating the kids in high school who will be getting their marijuana from their older brothers and sisters very easily, or much more easily, and giving them an idea that it is okay to smoke because it's legal. And I think it's the wrong way to go. I'll be glad to address it more later if you need it.
Okay, thank you. Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Evan Grolman. I live on North 9th Avenue. I understand that this is a premature issue, but as a college student, my concern about having a marijuana dispensary in the town of Highland Park is the fact that we are sort of sandwiched between two schools, Middlesex County College to the north and Rutgers University to the south. And I have read somewhere on a reliable website that marijuana can affect brain development for people up until the age of 25, I think, is when your brain stops developing. And my concern would be that having a dispensary in this town could attract people, not just from this town to come in, but from surrounding college towns, like as far as Princeton or New Brunswick here to this town. And I understand that there's the talk of social justice and people compare marijuana to alcohol. My concern is that alcohol is already legal and we already have enough problems with it. My concern is, what are we doing by adding on another drug which people can get intoxicated off of and therefore choose to get behind the wheel of a car? And where's the social justice for the people who might be victimized by people who would otherwise be doing something that only hurts themselves, but therefore their bad decisions are now impacting other people? So that's what I'd like to say.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, we're at the limit for this session of public discussion. I'm sorry, Mr. Gross, we finished this public session. Please stay for the second one so that you can speak then. Mr. Gross, no, did you hear me?
No, I didn't hear.
Oh, let me talk a little louder. Oh. Sorry. We just, by statute, are finished with the 15 minutes of open public discussion for session 1, but please come back up to talk with us at the second session. Thank you. Okay. Clerk, can you please report on handicap parking ordinance amendment for consideration of passage on final reading by title?
An ordinance amending on-street parking regulations for residences occupied by handicapped persons and amending the code of the Borough of Highland Park was duly advertised for consideration of passage on final reading by title, and affidavits of publication are on file. The ordinance was posted and made available for public inspection as required by law.
Okay, may I have a motion to take up the ordinance on second reading by title?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, any public hearing? All right. May I have a motion to adopt or reject the resolution on and advertise the ordinance on that reading by title, on final reading by title?
Motion to adopt.
Second. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Fine?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster Dublin?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Welkowitz?
Yes.
Okay, clerk, could you please report on advertising the fair share housing ordinance for consideration of passage on final reading by title?
An ordinance of the Borough of Highland Park, County of Middlesex, and State of New Jersey, adding Chapter 86, Fair Share Affordable Housing, to the Code of the Borough of Highland Park to address the requirements of the New Jersey Superior Court and Mount Laurel Doctrine, was duly advertised for consideration of passage on final reading by title, and affidavits of publication are on file. The ordinance was posted and made available for public inspection as required by law.
Okay, may I have a motion to take up the ordinance on final reading by title?
So moved.
Second.
Any public hearing? All right. May I have a motion to adopt or reject the resolution and advertise the ordinance on final reading by title? Roll call.
You need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Councilman Fine.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster Dublin.
Yes.
Councilman George.
Yes.
Councilman Hale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Welkowitz.
Yes.
Okay. Clerk, can you please report on introduction of the Water and Sewer Ordinance Amendment for consideration of passage on first reading by title?
An ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Highland Park, Chapter 328, Sewer and Water, has been introduced in writing by the Public Works and Public Utilities Committee for consideration of passage on first reading by title.
Okay, may I have a motion to adopt or reject and advertise the ordinance on first reading by title?
Also move.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Fine.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster Dublin.
Yes.
Councilman George.
Yes.
Councilman Hale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Welkowitz.
Yes.
Clerk, can you please report on introduction of property acquisition ordinance for introduction of passage on first reading by title?
An ordinance of the Borough of Highland Park in Middlesex County authorizing pursuant to NJSA 40A:12-3 the acquisition of a portion of Block 22, Lot 6 on the Borough of Highland Park tax map and appropriating the sum not to exceed $150,000 for said acquisition has been introduced in writing by the Economic Development and Planning Committee for consideration of passage on first reading by title.
Okay, may I have a motion to adopt or reject and advertise the ordinance on first reading by title?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Fine.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster Dublin.
Yes.
Councilman George.
Yes.
Councilman Hale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Welkowitz.
Yes.
Clerk, would you report on introduction of traffic ordinance amendment for consideration of passage on first reading by title?
An ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Highland Park, Chapter 7, Traffic, has been introduced in writing by the Public Safety Committee for consideration of passage on first reading by title.
May I have a motion to adopt or reject and advertise the ordinance on first reading by title?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Fine.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster Dublin.
Yes.
Councilman George.
Yes.
Councilman Hale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Welkowitz.
Yes.
All right. May I have a motion to adopt the following consent items? Numbers 15,
39.
15 to 39.
to number 39.
Also move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Fine.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster Dublin.
Yes.
Councilman George.
Yes.
Councilman Hale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Welkowitz.
Yes.
I am pleased to be appointing Aaron Conine to the Safe Walking and Cycling Committee. May I have a motion to confirm?
Motion to confirm.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Fine.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster Dublin.
Yes.
Councilman George.
Yes.
Councilman Hale.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Welkowitz.
I'm delighted that Aaron's joining our team officially. He's already been part of it and made some wonderful comments and helped us a lot. So thank you. Yes.
Great. All right. We're moving into our next public discussion? Mayor, would you step up and please finish your conversation?
Thank you. Again, what I wanted to do is talk to you today. I know it's premature, and I am going out and I'm meeting with people who have a lot of questions, and I'm just so excited to basically share that with you. Basically, if this gets approved at the state level, it's having a tough time, and I'm happy about that because I'm like the David and the Goliath fight here, okay? There's not too many of us out there fighting, but we do have the police chiefs, we have the sheriff's officers, we have doctors and parents. There are a lot of different people backing us. Okay, all I want you to think about as a mayor and council is if recreational marijuana gets approved, how is this going to make your town better? That's the only question that you have to really think about, how it makes your town, better. Me personally, this is Joe Camel all over again. It's a commercialization of marijuana, just like the tobacco was with the younger kids, getting younger kids. The big thing today now is it's the edibles, okay? It's the vaping of the marijuana. It's the edibles, it's the gummy bears, it's the lollipops. It's not for grown-ups. They're trying to get the younger people. In Colorado right now, they're starting to smoke marijuana and eat these edibles at 12 years old. They're starting younger than any other state. They're having problems, people with jobs who get tested. They're smoking on Saturday. They show up to work on Monday. They're getting tested. They have THC levels in their blood. They're fired. It's a real problem. I think you need to think about that. AAA is totally against this. And what this young man right here, very, very impressive, he's talking about what's going on. You're in the middle. You got this great highway. You got a wonderful downtown. And people are going to come in here, buy their marijuana, smoke their marijuana or eat their marijuana, and then get in a car and drive. Your insurance is going up. AAA is saying right now the drug driving deaths have gone up and accidents have gone up in Colorado. So we need to be really aware of that. And me personally, I really care about the children. I don't care if you want to smoke marijuana at home. It's supposed to be 21 older. Guarantee it, people. Just like with alcohol. The first time you probably had a beer was your older brother or sister probably bought it for you. So that's going to happen. And you know what? When it's an acceptable thing and there's access, more and more people are going to be smoking or eating the edibles. And what's going on here is that this is a $58 billion industry. Right now, McDonald's is an $8 billion industry. So I'm telling you, there's a lot of money out there. They're pushing this big time. Every lobbyist on the street has 2 or 3 pro-marijuana clients. They're really pushing this hard. And what it comes down to right now, and social justice is very important. We're all for that, and we will push that too. We're not against medical marijuana. We are against recreational marijuana. Right now in that bill, the new bill that's coming out, they're talking about smoke lounges. So now, not only are they going to come and buy, but they can stay and hang out in one of these smoke lounges. So you have to be very careful. Also, the new bill, it says that if you have a medical marijuana facility, right, and it's big enough, and you want to have rec as on one side, you can. So now you have a medical and a recreational marijuana facility in your town, and it's not going to be good. So I had a lot of different facts. I love what these people had to say. I think they're right on. I know it's early. In the bill, it says that if it does get passed, you have 180 days as a mayor and council to say yes or no whether you want it. I think that's because people are going to be looking, businesses are going to be looking to open up in your town, and that gives them enough time to know whether they can open up a facility or not in your town. So if you have any questions, I'd like to answer them, but if not, that's fine. I'll come back some other time, but I think it's important that you are starting a conversation now. I know it's early, but I think you're a very progressive town, so I'm glad to hear that you are out there. A lot of towns are sitting back and waiting, me personally, we didn't want to wait. We knew it's coming, and now that I'm dealing with Trenton, and I deal with the Senate President and the Assembly Speaker and the Governor, they're really pushing us, and it's all about money. It's nothing else but about money. They're not thinking about the consequences it's going to have for the people in this great state in your town. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
My name is Herb Gross, and I live on Adelaide Avenue. At the previous meeting, I listened to quite a few people talking on the issue of marijuana. Just recently, I was watching Channel 13. I didn't know what the program was gonna be, but there were 3 justices from around the country, not the justices from the Supreme Court, and they talked about the issue of marijuana, and it happened to catch my ear. Everyone that was at this meeting, the previous meeting, they're entitled to their opinion. This gentleman, he's entitled to his opinion, and I am entitled to my opinion. The issue of marijuana is a very big issue. Please let me explain. Over the years, men and women across this country, across our beautiful country, have been sent to jail. College students from across this country have been sent to jail. High school students, boys and girls, have been put on probation, their lives ruined. And this is going to be a big issue for the United States Supreme Court, whether they are going to legalize marijuana. I support marijuana for medical purposes only. But until the justices of the United States take this issue and free these people that have been incarcerated for 10, 15 years, and now you say you're going to legalize marijuana, I say no. They have to take the issue of all these people that have been put in prison, college students, high school students, and have their records completely exonerated. That's where I stand on the issue of marijuana.
Thank you, Mr.
They have to free
Gross.
these prisoners that have been incarcerated for 10, 15 years, and now you say you're going to legalize marijuana. I say no, not until these people are exonerated and their records set free. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very good, sir. There are 3 bills that they're looking at. Expungement and social justice bill. Okay, it's a very important bill. Also medical marijuana, basically expanding medical marijuana, and then a recreation bill.
So do me a favor, just state your name again so that for the...
I already got it.
You got it? Okay.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just want, he's absolutely right. There's an issue that, you know, the people who smoked marijuana 3 weeks ago are in jail, let's say, and then you're gonna make it legal, well, what happens with them? And then the people who don't get their records expunged, what kind of jobs can they have in the future? So it's very important. So I think he's right on about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would also like
Wait, state your name and address again.
Okay, it hasn't changed since last time. Still Eric Silverman, and I still live on 30 South Adelaide Avenue. I paid my maintenance through the month. I would like to address, again, the issue of marijuana versus alcohol. This was a big argument people were making in the 60s. This was an issue 50 years ago, 1968, the year of a lot of social upheaval in both America and Europe. And they were saying about the hypocrisy of parents who would have the 3-martini lunch and say that marijuana should be illegal. What I would like to say is that, first of all, is that most use of alcohol is not for getting drunk. People have a cold beer on a hot day, a glass of wine with dinner, maybe a tasty mixed drink every now and then, and these people are not getting drunk. Yes, there is misuse of it. People are getting drunk. People get cirrhosis. People get into alcohol-related car crashes. But most use is just for the taste of it or the cold. It's cold, refreshing quality. And another difference is the effects on other people present. In this instance, marijuana is like tobacco. There is a such thing as secondhand smoke. That if you are in the presence, especially in a confined indoor space with someone smoking, whether it be a tobacco cigarette or a marijuana cigarette, people are breathing it in. There is no such thing as secondhand drinking. And if pot becomes legalized, if it becomes widely available, people will be under pressure to allow it in their houses. Everyone wants to be the host with the most, the hostess with the most, is to have the coolest parties. No one wants to be the wet blanket, the square party pooper, or whatever it's called at different times. And regardless of how much mistrust we have of the government, a lot of people, especially children, will say, well, if this is legal, if you have this new industry that's springing up like weeds, if you don't mind my little pun, that it is creating the impression that this is good, that the government is telling you, the powers that be are telling you this is either good or that there's nothing wrong with it. And these are reasons that it shouldn't be legalized. Again, to follow up on Herb's comments, yes, there have been injustices. We have many people in prison who shouldn't be in prison, people who have committed nonviolent crimes. But by keeping it illegal, we are not looking to put people in prison, not looking to keep people in prison. We are just looking to protect our interests and the interests of our children. We seek to push no one into the shade, but we demand our place in the sun.
Thank you. Anyone who has not yet, okay.
Hello, everyone. Dan Stern Cardinal, Harper Street. So, first thing I want to say is that there are good and valid arguments, good and valid reasons to be concerned about the possibility of recreational cannabis. It's absolutely true that it impedes brain development, and that could have cognitive effects throughout one's life. It can lead to certain mental illnesses at higher rates throughout one's life. That is absolutely true. But we should not use cherry-picked data and bad arguments to argue against legal cannabis. So just while we were sitting here, I looked up a couple of the arguments we heard. The hospital in Colorado that reported half the newborns tested positive for cannabis. That was for 1 month of data, March of 2016. 11 newborns were tested, and 5 tested positive. However, for the up to when this article was written, which was later in 2016, so from January to September, 403 babies were born at that same hospital. Only 1/4 were tested, and obviously the ones that were tested are the ones where there was indication that the parent may be using cannabis, so they were the ones that were tested. And of those 101 out of 403 that were tested, 27 tested positive. So about 1/4 of the babies were tested, and about 1/4 of those tested positive. So that's only 1/16 of the total newborn population for the year of 2016. For the year of 2015, the entire year, that was 519 births, 93 total tested, 31 positive. So that's 31 out of 519. That's a far cry from half of the newborns testing for positive for cannabis. Related to traffic accidents, these are data from the Colorado Department of Transportation. So overall, from 2014 to 2017, the rate of traffic fatalities went up pretty significantly. That's actually a national trend, and nobody's really sure why that's happening. But for whatever reason, traffic fatalities are becoming more common over the last 5 years or so. So the rate statewide for Colorado increased from 488, or sorry, not the raw number, not the rate, increased from 488 to 648 from 2014 to 2017. During that same time, alcohol-related fatalities increased from 160 to 171. Cannabis-attributed fatalities were 19 in 2014, peaked at 52 in 2016, and then fell to 35 in 2017. So there's simply no evidence that suggests in Colorado that the overall increase in traffic fatalities is related in any way to the increase in impaired driving due to cannabis. In fact, the rate of increase involving cannabis is lower than the overall statewide increase, indicating that on net, that is not even remotely contributing to that fairly worrying trend that's not just in Colorado, but nationwide. The fact that it's a nationwide trend and not just limited to states that have legal cannabis is also evidence that the cannabis isn't responsible for the increase in traffic fatalities. So like I said, there are legitimate concerns when it comes to recreational cannabis, but in a spike in babies being born with cannabis in their system or a spike in traffic fatalities attributable to cannabis impairment are simply not good arguments against it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to step up to the microphone.
Spoke previously. I don't get out here too much, so I just wanted to go again.
Yeah. You can stay as long as you like.
Cool.
1 second, just state your name and
Oh yeah, Boris Bronstein at 367 Crowles Road. I didn't know this was gonna turn into a Reefer Madness affair, and Mayor Point Pleasant for coming. Super not trying to diatribe on this, like it's an important issue overall, but I think it's just important for the council and the city of Highland Park to stick to what's good for the city of Highland Park. To answer your very first question, you said what benefit? Sales tax. That's the benefit of having a dispensary in Highland Park. Highland Park isn't going to stop New Jersey from legalizing it, so if it's legal in Jersey, East Brunswick is going to legalize it, or Edison will, or one town over, and the amounts that people will be able to buy will be enough for them to buy it from, go from Highland Park, buy it there, and come back to Highland Park. There's literally no reason not to. So that's just in short, like this whole like ethics of marijuana is not as important as the practicality of it, and Highland Park can stand to considerably benefit from the sales taxes, given the state of Main Street and the number of businesses that are closed and the business issues going on, as well as the property tax hikes. The sales tax is a great way of doing it, and people are talking about the college town. That's a benefit. You know, you have college students in New Brunswick coming here, then going back across the river. That's a good thing. You can build businesses around that, food, things like that. So the ethics are important to talk about on a state level. Once it's legalized state-wise for Highland Park, let's talk about it like not theoretically, but practically. How can Highland Park benefit, and possibly what the issues will be, but those issues will happen no matter if Highland Park has a dispensary here or not. And there could be obviously a lot of regulations that you put on it. Where can it be sold? How can it be sold? You know, if it's whatever, that can be done to make sure that minors don't get affected. Penalties for selling to minors. And to be frank, like I come from Brooklyn, right? I grew up in Brooklyn public schools. Marijuana was
Me
allowed.
too.
Yeah, so I don't partake. I don't condone eating pork either, but I don't want to ban other people from doing it. Kids have more access to marijuana than they do alcohol. Specifically, because alcohol is legalized, and if you try to buy alcohol in a store, they'll kick you out. The amount of benefit for them to sell to minors versus the potential loss of not being able to sell to everyone else is far more significant. So yeah, just once we're on the topic, the ethics are great to discuss, not for the Borough of Highland Park, but the sales tax revenue is an important factor to think about. Point Pleasant, obviously.
It's all about money, I get it.
Yeah, Point Pleasant, you don't have that issue. You don't have that issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anyone, oh, bye, Mayor. Anybody who has not yet spoken in the second round here? Is everybody leaving for the bathroom?
Everybody's just talk to you every 2 weeks.
Doctor, thank you.
I'm still Dr. Miller. Still at 325 North 3rd. I think eventually the township is going to have to make a decision. They have to reach into their heart and say, do we want dispensaries here? Do we want the town to be known as a place where people could come in, buy marijuana because we wanted to make money, because we wanted to have a sales tax, because we wanted to, is it good for Highland Park? I agree with the mayor that it's not something that's good for Highland Park's image. And this is not a new issue in terms of the medical consequences of marijuana. I mentioned to Josh at one point, my uncle, who was 94 years old, passed away recently. He was a very brilliant psychiatrist, psychoanalyst in Philadelphia. And in 1970, he was the first one to publish an observational study in Cheltenham Township. He and a colleague were co-psychiatrists for the township, the school system, when people were using drugs. And they started seeing an increase in problems with the adolescents, the high school students and the pre-adolescents, where they started using marijuana. They excluded all other drugs. This was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. There are 39 cases of kids whose personality changes, paranoia, schizophrenia, other types of derailment of their educational abilities. And they were treated after a while, got off of marijuana, and their personalities resumed back. So they published this, and about a year and a half later, they published an additional 22 students that had similar things. So there's a observational study, and this was the first to get published in the records. And it became very controversial in those days. Is it really dangerous? Is it not really dangerous? If you just Google marijuana effects on adolescents, you're going to find it. And the reason I'm talking about adolescents is because we know that the kids are vaping, they're buying these gummies, the edibles, and if their older siblings or their cousins get it in town, they're going to be using it and making it more accessible. And it's just something that you really have to think about is, do you want to be a party to this? I don't want to be a party to it in my office, in the sense that I see these kids come in and I could tell, you could spot somebody. I just had a teacher today, a math teacher, and I was talking about that I was coming to the meeting, and he said that I think he teaches in, it's a little bit west of here, I don't want to mention the town, I don't remember the town. He said that they have a way of identifying the students just by their look, and they're allowed to test them in school because it's school property and they don't have to get the parents' permission to test them. The fact of the matter is that marijuana hangs around your body for about 30 days. If you have more body fat, it's going to hang around up to about 30 days. Maybe you'll get rid of it if you have a very lean and mean body and you don't have that much body fat. The THC is there bathing your brain. People don't think that marijuana is addicting, but marijuana is addicting. I was at a lecture at Harvard pediatric conference, and there was a psychiatrist there talking about the addiction of marijuana, where it is on the spectrum. You have coffee at one end, you have heroin at the other end, and marijuana is somewhere in the middle. The reason that people don't realize that it's addicting is because it's still bathing your brain when you stop smoking. So it takes about 30 days to get it out of your system, and then you start going into withdrawal. And the definition of addiction is tolerance and withdrawal. You develop tolerance by needing more and more to do the same job, and you could all relate to that with coffee. If you start drinking a lot of coffee, you need more coffee to keep you awake. And if you stop drinking coffee, you get a withdrawal headache, potentially. Not everybody gets it, but caffeine is addicting because it hits our addiction centers in the brain. Heroin is much worse. The addiction is quicker, and the withdrawal is much more severe. But the point of the matter is that marijuana is addicting, and if you want to be a party of it and have it in your town and be proud of that you have it in your town, then you have to vote your conscience eventually. I think that decriminalizing it is reasonable, but legalizing it for recreational use sends a message that's wrong, and ultimately the society will realize 10 or 15 years from now that it probably is wrong.
Okay, so I'm going to thank you very much. As I said in the very beginning, the council has not yet taken this up as a discussion. We will have plenty of open public comments. I'm going to let one more person, if you have not yet spoken, please step up to the microphone. Otherwise, and then after this, we're going to have to cut this off so we can get to the rest of our business for the evening.
Hey, how are you? My name is Matthew Hirsch, 333 Felton Avenue. I'm a supporter of legalized marijuana. I'm a supporter of selling legalized recreational marijuana in Highland Park. I am really disappointed in Councilman Fine for introducing this topic of discussion in this way. And I just want to say that for the record. Thank you.
Okay. May I have a motion to go into executive session for property acquisition and litigation subjects?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call? Okay.
Oh, it says roll call. Can't even read my own agenda. Councilman Fine?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster Dublin?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Welkowitz? Yes. I think I'm tired.
Okay. Thank you all. And we will have more discussion about many of these topics. Just watch for open public meetings.